happy to join with you today in what will go down in history as the greatest demonstration for freedom in the history of our nation. 70 years ago, a great American in whose symbolic shadow we stand today signed the Emancipation Proclamation. This momentous decree came as a great beacon of light, of hope to millions of Negro slaves who had been seared in the flames of withering injustice. It came as a joyous daybreak to end the long night of their captivity. But 150 years later, we must face the tragic fact that the Negro has not taken full advantage of his freedom. 150 years later, the life of the Negroes is still sadly crippled by the manacles of poverty and the chains of institutional racism. 150 years later, the Negro is joined on the island of poverty by Hispanics and other immigrants in the midst of a vast ocean of material prosperity. 150 years later, the Negro is still languishing in the corners of American society and finds himself without recourse when doors are shut in his face. So we have come here today to dramatize this shameful condition. In 1963, we came to our nation's capital to withdraw funds from the account that the architect of our republic unknowingly wrote in the magnificent words of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. They were signing a promissory note to which every American was to fall heir. This note was a promise that all people, yes, even people of color, would be guaranteed the unalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It is obvious today, my friends, that America has removed much of its de facto segregation policies, yet the vast litany of institutional racist policies remain unabated. They continue to favor white America, thereby instilling it with a sense of unfair white privilege. Thus, people of color are still having a difficult time making withdrawals from its civil rights account. They must endure harsh and rude treatment at voting polls, produce more and more identification badges that verify their heritage, and stand around in long lines just to exercise the right to vote. Moreover, the cost of health care continues to skyrocket, putting it out of reach for the masses of colored people as corporate non-participation with Obamacare intensifies. Corporations are laying off employees not because they don't need them. They are downsizing because they don't wish to share in Obamacare's initiatives. Yet I can hear the prophetic voice of James, the moderator, exclaim, "Come now, you rich, weep and howl, for your miseries are coming upon you. Indeed, the wages of the laborers who mowed your fields, which you kept back by fraud, cry out, and the cries of the reapers have reached the ears of the Lord." Rather than honoring its sacred obligation of citizenship rights to people of color, America continues to place barriers, obstacles in our way. But we refuse to believe that justice delayed is justice denied. We refuse to believe that the keys to the great vaults of opportunity of this nation will remain forever in the hands of the elite. So we have come to demand the riches of freedom and the security of justice. We say to America today, don't close the door. Don't freeze the assets of freedom. Now is the time to open up the great vaults of opportunity to all people in America. Now is the time to make real the promises of democracy. Now is the time to rise from the dark and desolate valley of elitism and institutional racism to the sunlit path of equal opportunity and social justice. Now is the time to lift our nation from the quicksands of favoring the wealthy, destroying the middle class, and exacerbating conditions for the poor. Now is the time to make justice a reality for all of God's children. Let me insist today that it would be fatal for the nation to overlook the urgency of the moment. This sweltering summer of Republican obstructionism and Democratic apathy will not pass until there is an invigorating autumn of freedom and equality. 2013, with its re-election of President Obama, is not an end, but a beginning. Those who hope that African Americans will be content with just having a black president will have a rude awakening if the nation continues to put poor people on hold. There will neither be rest nor tranquility in America until people of color are given full citizenship rights. Whirlwinds of political activism will continue to shake the foundations of our nation until the bright day of justice emerges. There is something that I must say to my people who stand on the warm threshold which leads into the palace of justice. In the process of gaining our rightful place, we must not be guilty of slothfulness, self-hate, and self-pity. We cannot base our protest simply on advocating for more welfare or increasing the minimum wage. We cannot rely solely on the back of the government to build our communities. Rather, let us build our community on entrepreneurship, innovative ideas, and shared economic interests. Let us no longer wait on 40 acres and a mule, no longer wait on reparations, but rather let us invest and buy our own mule and our own 40 acres. We must forever conduct our struggle on the high plane of dignity and discipline. We must not allow our creative protests to degenerate into physical violence. Again and again, we must rise to the majestic heights of meeting physical force with soul force. We are descendants of kings, queens, and princesses. Greatness is in our blood. From that of the mighty hunter Nimrod, the builder of the great city of Nineveh, to the kings of Israel. From Marcus Garvey, who saw the value of labor at Tuskegee, to that of W.E.B. Du Bois, who called on us to hone our intellectual prowess from Harvard University. We are a great people. Let us in this new millennium rise to our potential in America. And as we rise, we must make the pledge that we shall always go higher than the previous generation in our quest for freedom and equal opportunity. We cannot turn back. There are those who are asking, when will you be satisfied? Well, let me hasten to say we can never be satisfied as long as people of color are the victims of unspeakable police brutality. No, we can never be satisfied as long as our Hispanic brothers and sisters are subjected to unjust immigration laws and random stops by police to check for papers to travel within the borders of our country. We cannot be satisfied as long as HIV and AIDS, breast cancer, heart disease, and diabetes continue to ravage our communities. No, we cannot be satisfied when a 101-year-old woman has to wait in a voting line for 18 hours just to cast her vote. We cannot be satisfied as long as poverty is the norm and minorities make up 94% of the prison population. We cannot be satisfied as long as the United States redirects trillions of dollars to fight political wars against a phantom enemy named Al-Qaeda and leaves millions of the poor, elderly, and disadvantaged without hope for a better tomorrow. We cannot be satisfied as long as education is unequal. Suburbs attain high achievement levels while inner city and rural populations barely meet state minimums. No, we cannot be satisfied. We are not satisfied, and we will not be satisfied until justice rolls down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream. My friends, I am not unmindful. Some of you have come here out of great trials and tribulations. Some of you have come fresh from political battles in your home districts, which have taken an enormous toll on you both physically and mentally. Some of you have come from areas where your quest for freedom left you battered by the storms of persecution and staggered by the winds of adversity. You have been the veterans of creative suffering, even as your children seem unable to understand your struggle. I urge you today to continue to work with the faith that unearned suffering is redemptive. I continue to urge you to say, I won't go back. I won't go back. I'm marching on because our God is up to something. Go back to the struggle, knowing that somehow this situation can and will be changed. Let us not ever wallow in a valley of despair. I say to you today, my friends, that although we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of true brotherhood. I have a dream that one day even the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with the heat of injustice, sweltering with the heat of oppression, will be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. I have a dream today. I have a dream that my children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day, down in Alabama, with its vicious racist policies, children of color will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers. I have a dream that one day every valley shall be exalted, every hill and mountain shall be made low. The rough places will be made plain, and the crooked places will be made straight, and the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together. This is our hope. This is the faith that I go back to the South with. With this faith, we will be able to hew out of the mountain of despair a stone of hope. With this faith, we will be able to transform the jangling discords of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood. With this faith, we will be able to work together, to pray together, to struggle together, to go to jail together, to stand up for freedom together, knowing that our labor is not in vain. This will be the day when all God's children will be able to sing with a new meaning, "My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty. Of thee I sing, land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride. From every mountainside, let freedom ring." And if America is to be a great nation, this must become true. So let freedom ring from the prodigious hilltops of New Hampshire. Let freedom ring from the mighty mountains of New York. Let freedom ring from the heightening Alleghenies of Pennsylvania. Let freedom ring from the snow-capped Rockies of Colorado. Let freedom ring from the curvaceous slopes of California. But not only that, let freedom ring from Stone Mountain of Georgia. Let freedom ring from Lookout Mountain of Tennessee. Let freedom ring from every hill and molehill of Mississippi. From every mountainside, let freedom ring. And when this happens, when we allow freedom to ring, when we let it ring from every village and every hamlet, from every state and every city, we will be able to speed up that day when all of God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of that old Negro spiritual, "Free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we're free at last. Free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we're free at last."